You ready? I'm ready.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Today we're going to not be doing so much of a cook video, but a video on how to use all of our scraps after we have finished all of our cooks. So with that being said, today we're going to be working on making beef tallow. So these two bags right here are bags of beef fat that we have just from trimming the two briskets that we had from the brisket videos that we made. One thing that I want to talk about is just kind of the importance of using your scraps. You know, if you guys work in a barbecue restaurant or you cook barbecue at home and you're trying to make it nice and pretty with all your trim, whether you're doing brisket, ribs, chicken even, you know, the excess and the trim, it adds up quite a bit. And instead of throwing it away, you know, I feel like it's our duty for cooking food is to be able to use everything that, you know, that we get from it. If you're breaking down a bunch of chickens and you have a lot of those backbones, or you have all those wingtips, I mean, you can use that to make chicken stock. There's always different ways to utilize all your scraps. In the same way, that's what we're trying to do with all this beef fat. Is that, you know, this isn't garbage. This isn't something that we should just, as soon as we cut it off, we're tossing it out. In the same way that we would make stocks and stuff like that, we're basically gonna do this similar thing, except instead of stock, we're making our own fat. And one of the biggest things I always tell people when I see a lot of people throw away a lot of the beef fat is I always ask them, you know, how much they paid per pound for the brisket. And, you know, depending on the time of year and what's going on, and just because brisket is so expensive and the price goes up and down quite a bit, I always tell them, well, whatever you paid per pound for that brisket, you're basically doing the same thing with the beef fat. So you're almost throwing away money if you're not utilizing it in any way. So with that being said, that's what we're gonna be focused on today, is creating this beef tallow so that we can use it later, so we're not wasting anything, that we're respecting an entire piece of meat that we get and everything that it gives us. And yeah, we're just gonna try to find uses for everything that we do on this channel. All right. So with that being said, I have my grinder out. We're gonna grind this up into smaller pieces. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I find that it makes it easier and quicker to render out all that fat. And also, usually if you don't, even though I cut it up into smaller chunks when I was trimming the brisket, if you try to render it out as is in those big chunks, it's not necessarily gonna make the quality any better or worse. But the thing is, like, you'll have to drain it and you'll still have big chunks of fat that's still in there that have more to give, but you almost have to drain it and then cook it again. Again, you know, if you don't have a grinder, then you don't have to do this step. But if you do, I know it sucks to clean out that thing every once in a while, but it definitely yields you more fat. And it also, I think, makes the cooking a little more even, so that you don't end up burning it later on, because you have sizes that are sizes of fat that are different sizes. Some are big, some are small, and we just want to make sure everything is rendering out an even rate. And then so I just feel like this is kind of the best way to do it. All right, so we're gonna set up our grinder. We'll get this station set up so we can try to keep it as clean as possible. And yeah, I'll show you what we're doing. Okay guys, so we just finished grinding up all this fat, and As you guys can see in here, I mean, this dish isn't very tall, but it's pretty wide. I mean, we got a lot of fat in here, so we're gonna yield quite a bit. I would just recommend that if you guys are, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in the oven, just because I think I could get a more rounded heat on it instead of just throwing it on top of the stove, and as well as I didn't want to put this like in a tall pot. I wanted to have a little bit wider surface, just so that we can hopefully get more even cooking, more browning throughout. And we're gonna let this go for a couple hours, but after every hour or so, I'll just kind of go in there with a wooden spoon and just kind of scrape off the bottom, just to make sure that nothing on the bottom sticks. And also, if anything on the top doesn't seem like it's rendering properly, then we'll just kind of give it a mix so that everything kind of gets its chance to be close to the bottom and just to render out evenly. Also, there are other places that say that, you know, to put a little bit of water inside here. I mean, you can do that if you like. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be cooking low enough. I'm going to be somewhere between 225 and 250. As long as you're not cooking too hot and you kind of go in there every once in a while and mix it around, it shouldn't burn. But, you know, if you are going to step away a little bit longer, then yeah, put a little bit of water in there and then mix it when you can. But we're going to put a lid on top of this thing, and then we'll just let it go. And then we'll check on it every once in a while, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. All right, guys, so this is about 2 hours in on this rendered beef fat. It does not look pretty. Just keep letting it go. Again, I'm just giving you a little mix just to make sure that nothing is sticking to the bottom, and it's not. I mean, everything's coming up pretty loose. Again, if you are getting some sticking, your temp might be a little bit too high. I was gonna say smoker, but in your oven. You also can do this in your smoker, but you know, the temps are a little bit inaccurate, so if it gets a little bit hot, you could burn some of your fat, and then your tallow could taste a little bit charred. So I like doing the oven. It's a little bit more even, a little bit safer. But yeah, we're gonna pop the lid back on this thing, let it go for a couple more hours. Yeah, guys, again, this is without any water at the bottom because we're keeping the temp low enough so that we don't have to worry about anything sticking. And then we'll give it another stir in probably another hour or so. But the color, like you can see like on the edges how that stuff is getting nice and dark. That's what we're looking for with this. Like the fat is still, even as I stir it, I can feel that it's still pretty soft and kind of unpleasant. Like we almost want these little fat pieces to be almost similar to like pork cracklings. So they're gonna get nice and crispy, nice and golden brown. So just be patient with it, let it go. Yeah, we'll just let this thing go for another hour, 2 hours. So check on it again and give it another stir. All right, guys, so that's our video on making beef tallow. So again, this is the amount that we got from rendering down fat from 2 briskets, and it's still quite a bit. It might not look like a lot because it's not quite 2 quarts, but I promise you it's gonna last a lot longer than you think. But again, I just wanted to make a point again, make my point about you know, using everything. I think one of the things that I'm constantly reminded of after working in multiple barbecue restaurants is that there is a lot of waste that goes into, you know, just cooking food, just in general. And it's something that I didn't really think about too much before I started working in restaurants. I remember when I was, you know, cooking at home or just cooking briskets at home, like I would trim like I normally do, but I would toss it all out because, you know, I didn't really know what to do with it or how to use it. But I think now that I've worked in other places, that I see how much can add up when you are doing so much at a time, that, you know, I would say that if you are a barbecue person, you have to be responsible for using all those scraps. One of my biggest things that I always say too with barbecue is barbecue started off being one of those cooking methods that came up because there was just excess. You know, brisket wasn't something that was really being cooked a lot of, so it became smoked and they sold it that way and it became a thing, and now it's as big as it's ever been. In the same way, you know, I think sausage is kind of making that kind of a run right now, with everyone being super creative, trying to, I don't want to say like getting rid of their waste, but to, you know, take the scraps that they got and make something fun and interesting for their own restaurant. And in the same way, I mean, the beef towel is not really necessarily interesting. It's just kind of something that we all have and we have to use in some sort of way. You know, some of it will go into fat for sausage, but a lot of it will be rendered down. And, you know, for those of you guys who, I'm assuming those of you guys who are watching my videos are also people who really like to cook themselves or like to grill or have their own smokers. So, you know, beef tallow is the perfect fat to use when you're, you know, cooking off a steak, or if your pit needs to be seasoned. You know, beef tallow is a great way to, you know, season the inside of your pit. You know, you can use it in so many different ways, and you know, I want to say that, you know, it's this video might seem very simple, but I kind of want to make it a point that in barbecue we have to use everything as much as we can. And there's no better example than me working at Leroy and Lewis and working with those guys, and the way that they use, I mean, we get so much fat there from all those beef cheeks and barbacoa and all that kind of stuff, and the briskets themselves. You know, when we have enough fat, that's when Brad does his fried chicken. So, you know, I'm not saying that you guys are gonna probably not have that enough fat here to, you know, deep fry chicken, but at the same time, you know, we need to be able to be mindful of everything that we get from these animals that we're eating. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's very simple. I know it's pretty self-explanatory, but, you know, for those of you guys who were just curious, you know, how to make it at home and how to use it, you know, that's just a couple of examples. So thank you guys so much again for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If there's anything else, any other types of videos that you guys want to see, I got a couple lined up, but if I'm missing something, I want to make sure I add that to my list so I can get that out for you guys. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. See you guys next time.
Prepare any food, you have to clean up first and then kill the all germs and then everything. Sanitizing, that's very important. Okay, that's the first tip of it. Okay, so clean up. Okay, yes, wait.